I stayed in a quiet Airbnb in a remote town, and by the second night I realized someone else had a key to my room. The sound woke me up instantly, a small metallic click right at my bedroom door, the unmistakable sound of a key. Turning slowly inside the lock. I froze in. Bed. My phone said 3:07 a.m. The handle moved slightly, then stopped, and on the other side of the door, I heard someone breathing. I wish I could say that was the first strange thing that happened in that house, but it not even close. This happened a few years ago during a solo road trip. I had been driving across several states for almost a week, just exploring small towns, taking photos, and trying to stay away from big, crowded cities. I like quiet places. Places where nothing really happens. Or at least, that's what I thought back then. Late one afternoon, I ended up in this small town I had never heard of before. The population sign at the entrance said 2,100 people. It looked like the kind of place where everyone knows everyone. There was one main street, a gas station, a diner, a small grocery store. And not much else. Originally planned to keep driving, but it was already getting dark and I was tired. So I opened my phone and checked Airbnb. There were only 2 places available in the entire town. One was a room inside someone's house. The other was a small, separate guest room behind an older home. The photos showed a simple place. A small bedroom, a bathroom. A narrow hallway. Nothing fancy, but the reviews were good. Most of them said the same thing. Quiet, peaceful, good for a short stay. So I booked it for 2 nights. The host messaged me almost immediately. His name was Daniel. He said the key would be in a lockbox near the side entrance, and I could check in whenever I arrived. The instructions were simple, and honestly, everything seemed completely normal. At least at first. When I arrived, the house looked older than the photos. Not abandoned. Just worn. It sat at the end of a long gravel driveway. There were tall trees surrounding the property. No street lights. No neighbors close by. Just darkness and quiet. The main house was 2 stories. White paint. Large front porch. But my room wasn't inside the house. It was connected through a side hallway extension. Almost like a small guest wing. The lockbox was exactly where Daniel said it would be. I entered the code, took the key, unlocked the side door. And stepped inside. The hallway smelled slightly like old wood. The lights flickered for a second when I turned them on. At the end of the hallway was my room. Everything looked exactly like the photos. Small bed. Knit stand. Lamp. A window facing the backyard, and a small bathroom to the right. Nothing strange. Nothing unusual. Just quiet. Very quiet. I dropped my bags and texted Daniel to let him know I arrived. He replied a few minutes later, "Great, let me know if you need anything." That was the last message I got from him that night. Around 9 p.m., I drove into town and grabbed dinner at the diner. The waitress asked where I was staying. When I told her the street name, she paused for a second. Not long, just a moment. Then she said, "Oh, okay," and quickly changed the subject. I didn't think much about it. Small towns are like that. Sometimes people act weird around strangers. After dinner, I bought a few snacks at the gas station and went back to the Airbnb. The driveway was completely dark when I returned. The trees blocked almost all the moonlight. For a second, I sat in my car, just listening. It was completely silent. No insects. No wind. Nothing. Then I shook it off and went inside. The first strange thing happened around 11 p.m. I was lying in bed scrolling through my phone, almost asleep, when I heard a sound somewhere in the house. A single footstep, slow, heavy, like someone walking across wooden floorboards. I sat up and listened. Another step, but it wasn't in my hallway. It sounded like it was coming from the main house, which made sense. The host probably lived there. Old houses make noise. People move around. No big deal. So I turned off the lamp and tried to sleep. But about 20 minutes later, I heard it again. This time closer. A slow step. Then another and another, moving down the hallway outside my room. I looked at the door. The light from the hallway was visible through the small gap under it. Someone was definitely walking out there, which again, was probably normal. Maybe Daniel needed something from storage. Maybe there were other guests. But then something strange happened. The footsteps stopped directly outside my door, right in front of it. And stayed there for a long time. I waited. 30 seconds, a minute, 2 minutes. No movement. No knocking. Nothing. Just silence on the other side of the door. Eventually, I told myself I was overthinking. Maybe he stopped to check something nearby. Maybe he went back the other way quietly. So I tried to relax. Eventually, I fell asleep. But sometime later that night, I woke up again, and this time the hallway light under my door was off, and I could hear someone slowly trying my door handle. The sound of the door handle moving woke me up immediately. It was slow, careful, like someone was trying not to make noise. For a moment I didn't move at all. I just stared at the door. In the darkness, the hallway light was off now. So the only thing I could see was the faint outline of the door in front of me. The handle moved again, just a little. Then it stopped. I held my breath. Waiting. Listening. After a few seconds, I heard footsteps again. Slow. Heavy. Moving away from my door, down the hallway, back toward the main house. I stayed frozen in bed for at least 5 minutes. My heart was beating fast now, but I kept telling myself the same thing. It was probably the host. Maybe he forgot something. Maybe he thought the room was empty. Maybe he was checking something. There had to be a normal explanation. Still, something about the way the handle moved bothered me. It didn't feel like someone accidentally touching the door. It felt like someone trying to open it. I grabbed my phone and checked the time. 3:07 a.m. For a moment I thought about messaging Daniel, but then I imagined how weird that message would sound. Hey, were you just trying to open my door? So I didn't send anything. Eventually the house became completely quiet again. No footsteps. No movement. Nothing. At some point, I finally fell asleep again, but the sleep wasn't good. I kept waking up every hour, checking the door. Listening. Waiting for another sound. None came. Morning came slowly. Sunlight through the window made the room feel normal again, almost peaceful. For a moment, I even wondered if I imagined the whole thing, but when I got out of bed and walked to the door. I immediately noticed something. The handle dot, it was slightly turned downward, just a little, like someone had pushed it halfway and then stopped. I stood there staring at it for a few seconds. Then I opened the door and looked into the hallway. Empty. Quiet. The morning light was coming through a small window. At the end. Everything looked normal. To normal. Around 9 am I walked into town for breakfast. The same diner as the night before. The same waitress was working. She recognized me and smiled. Morning, how was the stay? I hesitated for a moment. Then I said something casual. Pretty good. Quiet place. She nodded. Then asked where exactly I was staying again. I told her the street name. Again. That same pause. Very small, but noticeable. She looked at me for a second, then asked something strange. Did you meet the owner? I shook my head. No, just messages. She didn't say anything after that. Just wrote down my order, but something about that moment stayed in my mind. After breakfast, I went back to the Airbnb. The driveway looked the same. Empty. Quiet. But this time something caught my attention. There was another car parked near the main house. An old, dark pickup truck. I was pretty sure it wasn't there the night before. Maybe Daniel had come home, which would explain the footsteps. That actually made me feel better. Now there was a logical explanation. I went inside and spent most of the afternoon editing photos on my laptop. Nothing strange happened. No footsteps. No noises. The house felt completely empty. Around 6 p.m. I decided to take a short walk down the road. Just to stretch my legs. The area around the house was mostly forest. Very few other houses nearby. After about 20 minutes, I turned back. As I walked up the driveway again, I noticed something. The pickup truck was gone, which meant Daniel had probably left. But when I stepped inside the hallway, I immediately felt something was wrong. My room door was slightly open, just a few inches. I was absolutely sure I closed it before leaving. I slowly pushed the door open. The room looked the same at first. Bed. Net stand. Window. But then I noticed the chair. I had placed my backpack on the chair earlier. Now the backpack was on the floor. Next to the bed. I stood completely still, trying to remember if maybe I moved it myself. Maybe I dropped it earlier. Maybe I just forgot. But deep down, I knew that wasn't true. Always keep my bag on the chair. Always. A cold feeling slowly spread through my chest. Someone had been inside my room while I was gone. I grabbed my phone and opened the Airbnb listing again. I checked the details carefully. It said private guest room with separate entrance. It did not say shared access. It did not say the host might enter. Still. Maybe he had a reason. Cleaning. Maintenance. Something like that. So I messaged Daniel. My message was simple. Hey, quick question. Did someone enter the guest room today? For a while, there was no reply. 10 minutes. 20 minutes. 30 minutes. Finally, my phone buzzed. The message was short. Just one sentence. No. No one should have entered your room. I stared at the message, then slowly looked around the room again. And that's when I noticed something I somehow missed before. The closet door was open. Just slightly. And I was completely sure I had left it closed. 3. I stood there for a long moment, Staring at the closet door, it was open just a few inches, not wide enough to see inside, just enough to create a thin, dark line between the door and the frame. I tried to remember if I had opened it earlier. Maybe when I unpacked my bag, maybe when I looked for extra blankets. But the more I thought about it, the more certain I became I hadn't touched that closet at all. The room suddenly felt smaller, too quiet, too still. I slowly stepped closer to the closet. Each step felt louder than it should have. The wooden floor creaked softly under my feet. For a second I thought I heard something from inside the closet, but it might have just been my imagination. My heart was beating faster now. I reached out and pushed the door open. Slowly the hinges made a soft creaking sound. Inside there were only a few things. 2 empty hangers, a folded blanket on the shelf, and nothing else. I let out a breath I didn't realize I was holding. The closet was empty, still, that didn't explain the backpack, or the door being open, or the footsteps the night before. I stepped back into the middle of the room, trying to calm myself down. Maybe Daniel had entered earlier and simply forgot. Maybe he didn't want to admit it. People forget things, it happens. But another thought started forming in the back of my mind, a much worse one. What if someone else had a key? The rest of the evening felt strange. I couldn't focus on anything. Every small noise made me look up. The house felt different now, like someone had been watching me without me knowing. Around 9 p.m. it was already dark outside again. The trees behind the house moved slightly in the wind. Their shadows stretched across the backyard. I double-checked my door before going to bed, locked, then I pushed a chair under the handle, just in case. I told myself it was probably unnecessary, but it made me feel better. For a while, I watched videos on my phone, trying to distract myself. Eventually the tiredness caught up with me. The long drive, the lack of sleep, all of it. I turned off the lamp, and the room fell into darkness. I don't know how long I slept before I woke up again, but when I opened my eyes, something immediately felt wrong. The room was silent, too silent. Then I heard it, a faint sound from the hallway, a slow step, then another. My body went completely still. The footsteps were moving down the hallway. Again, exactly like the night before. Slow, careful, getting closer. I checked my phone. 3:07. I'm. The same time. Exactly the same. A cold feeling spread through my stomach. The footsteps stopped outside my door, right in front of it. Just like before, but this time the chair under the handle started moving. Very slowly, pushed from the other side. I felt every muscle in my body tighten. Someone was trying to open the door again. The handle pushed downward. The chair scraped slightly against the floor, but it held for a few seconds. Nothing happened. Then the pressure stopped. The handle returned to its normal position. I thought maybe they had given up. Maybe they realized the door was blocked. But then I heard the sound again, that metallic click, the unmistakable sound of a key entering the lock. I held my breath, completely frozen in bed. The key turned slowly, but the door didn't open. The chair was still blocking it. The person on the other side pushed once more. Harder this time, the chair scraped another inch. I grabbed my phone. My hands were shaking. For a moment, I considered calling the police, but something stopped me. Instead, I slowly slid out of bed and moved closer to the door. I don't know why I did it. Curiosity, maybe, or adrenaline. I leaned forward carefully and looked through the small gap under the door. At first I saw nothing, just darkness in the hallway. Then suddenly, a shadow moved. Someone was standing directly on the other side, and I could clearly see their shoes. Old boots. Dirty. Worn out. They didn't move. They just stood there. Waiting. Then the person on the other side did something that made my blood run cold. They crouched down. Slowly. Until their face was level with the gap under the door. And a second later, I saw one eye looking directly inside my room. For a second, my brain refused to understand what I was seeing. That eye was just staring inside. Unblinking. Watching. I stumbled backward away from the door. My heart was beating so hard it felt painful. The chair scraped loudly across the floor when I moved, and the eye disappeared instantly. On the other side of the door, the person stood up again. Then the handle jerked downward. Hard. The chair slammed against the door as the person pushed. Once. Twice. A third time. Each push stronger than the last. The door shook inside the frame, but the chair held. For a moment, everything went quiet. Again. No movement. No sound. I stood in the middle of the room holding my phone, trying to decide what to do. Call the police. Run to the window. Hide in the bathroom. Then suddenly a loud bang hit the door. The entire frame rattled. The person was trying to force it open now. That was the moment I finally called the police. My hands were shaking so badly, it took 2 tries to dial. The operator answered quickly. I kept my voice low. There's someone trying to break into my room. I'm at an Airbnb. I think they have a key. The operator asked for the address. I gave it to her as quietly as I could. She told me officers were on the way, but the nearest patrol was about 15 minutes out. 15 minutes that felt like hours. Outside the door, the person tried the handle again. Then another push. The chair moved half an inch. I grabbed the small desk in the room and dragged it quietly toward the door. Every second felt slow and heavy. My ears were focused completely on the hallway. The desk slid into place behind the chair. Now the door had 2 things blocking it. The person outside pushed again. The door didn't move this time. For about a minute, nothing happened. Then I heard footsteps again, moving slowly down the hallway, back toward the main house. Waited. Listening. But the footsteps didn't come back. The police arrived about 12 minutes later. I saw their lights flashing through the trees outside the window. I opened the door carefully. The hallway was empty. 2 officers walked through the house with flashlights. They checked the hallway, the guest rooms, the backyard. Then the main house. But no one was there. The place was completely empty. About 20 minutes later, Daniel finally arrived. He looked confused. And honestly, a little nervous. He said he got a call from the police and drove over immediately. The officers asked him a lot of questions. Did anyone else have keys? Had anyone been staying there recently? Did anyone else have access to the property? Daniel kept saying the same thing. No, just me. Then one of the officers asked to see all the keys. Daniel brought a small key box from the main house. Inside were several copies of guest Room keys. The officer counted them. Then counted again. One was missing. Daniel looked surprised. He said the last guest had checked out 3 weeks earlier. A man who stayed for 2 nights. Paid in cash. Didn't talk much. Left early in the morning. Daniel assumed the key had simply been lost. But one of the officers asked another question. Did you check the property after he left? Daniel hesitated. Then admitted he hadn't checked the guest wing for a few days. That's when the officers searched the property again. This time they looked somewhere else. The small storage space above the guest hallway. An attic crawl space. And that's where they found something disturbing. A sleeping bag, empty. Food wrappers, water bottles, and a flashlight. Someone had been staying there, quietly, for days. Maybe longer. The police believe the man who stayed there weeks earlier never actually left the property. He simply moved into the crawl space above the guest rooms, and waited, watching guests come and go, using the extra key he never returned, listening to everything happening below him, at night. He would come down into the hallway, sometimes even entering the rooms when guests were gone. The police never found him, not that night, not later. He disappeared before they arrived, no one ever saw him again. Daniel changed all the locks the next day, and the Airbnb listing disappeared shortly after. I left that town the next morning. I barely slept the rest of that night. Every small sound made me look at the door again, but nothing else happened for a long time. I tried to forget the whole experience, and eventually, I almost did, until about 6 months later, when I received a message on Airbnb, from an account with no profile picture, no reviews, just a blank page. The message contained only one sentence. I almost got the door open that night. And the worst part is, the account showed the sender's location. It was only 3 miles away from my house.